Hi, I'm John Hitch, Editor-in-Chief for Fleet Maintenance Magazine, and with me I have Darryl Purificati, who is the Senior Technical Advisor for OEM and Automotive for Petro-Canada Lubricants, an HF Sinclair company. And today we want to talk a little bit about something big coming to engine oils in the next year. So because of the Environmental Protection Agency's new regulation on low NOx or nitrous oxides. So Darryl, the EPA is going to be rolling out new regulation starting in 2027, and that has to do with, low nitrous oxides or NOx. And because you need these new engines to work very efficiently, we also need some new heavy-duty engine oils. So you've been really closely involved in this development. So just talk about what we need to know about these new oils that are coming out and the differences between them.
Yeah, thanks. So PC-12, proposed category 12 engine oils, were driven by the new regulations, like you said, from EPA and CARB for both NOx and greenhouse gas emissions. So even though the primary driver is emissions related, the increase in performance and quality of the products with the new generation of engine oils is driving an increase in oxidation resistance. It's increasing the durability of the product at the same time as increasing the need to meet those emission requirements and the protection of the aftermarket devices. The category we started developing the category 6 or 7 years ago through API. It takes collaboration of both engine manufacturers, additive companies, and oil marketers to get to develop the category with the specifications and the requirements that are needed. In the last couple of years, Petro-Canada, along with many others, have really started a lot of heavy work in developing the next category of engine oils and the next performance standard for those engine oils. Those will be rolled out on January 1st, 2027. And we're really excited at everything that it brings to the table.
And so you're not just working with Petro-Canada on this, you also are on the committee to really decide what's going on here with the American Petroleum Institute, or the API. So just talk to us a little bit about what that's like, and you mentioned oxidation control, but what were some other considerations that you were all trying to figure out to get better on so the OEM can meet their goals and benchmarks for what the EPA has set out?
Yeah, API is a collaborative committee that develops new categories, and it's worked very closely with the automakers, the engine manufacturers, the additive companies that provide the technology for, as well as the oil marketers. I'm Petro-Canada Lubricants representative on those API committees. I've chaired a couple of those committees in the past and continue to be an active participating member. Like I said, it's a collaborative effort where people find the common ground between what is required for regulatory requirements and what ultimately can be performed in a performance standard where we can get to the quality levels. And through the course of development, through engine testing, through bench testing, through field trial and fleet testing, develop a standard with specifications and limits that can then be turned around from a theoretical and paper exercise into reality and marketing of products that end up ultimately enhancing the offering to the end customer.
Mm-hmm. Because basically we have two aspects with the EPA rule. One is reducing the NOx almost 82%, and then the particulate matter by, I believe, over 50%. But on the other side, there's the warranty life, and that's not quite clear yet what the final goals are. But a couple years ago when you started all this, you knew we have to reduce wear and tear on the engine with whatever engine oil. So when you were talking and trying to compromise with everybody to figure this out, how important was that wear control and then also like the effects on the after-treatment system?
Yes, so PC-12 is driven, even though it's driven, the category development is driven by EPA and CARB. Heavy-duty engine oils in the heavy-duty industry wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't for durability, which includes oxidation resistance, wear protection, and the protection of the asset life throughout the course of usage for the units and the hardware itself. So even though you start with a governmental regulation or something specified for greenhouse gases or NOx, like you said, ultimately it comes down to durability of the engine, and that is key, where the engine oil plays a key role, being the lifeblood of the engine, keeping that thing running for as long as possible at its most optimal peak performance.
Mm-hmm. And so Petro-Canada Lubricants specifically, when do you expect your PC-12 category to come out, and how are people going to find that?
January 1st, 2027 is first date on the market for PC-12 or CL4 and FB4. We will have our products ready for the marketplace at that time. For the individual fleets or owner-operators or unit operators, it's key. There's a couple of key things they can do to prepare for the transition. One is to check with the OEM, see what the recommendations are. In my estimation, I think the most important thing is to follow up with the lubricants technical advisor, whoever it is that's supplying the oil. Mm-hmm. They have the latest information on the product that's going to be available. They are in tune and in step with the OEMs that are producing it, and it helps with the transition, because the transition involves tank rundowns, it involves inventory flow through, it involves a lot of different aspects that need to be managed well in advance of January 1st of 2027. So we're recommending people start contacting their suppliers now in advance. It's never too early to start putting a plan together, but those are some of the things that fleet managers, owner-operators can start doing today in preparation for January 1st, 2027.
So with the PC-12, there's two different ways you're approaching this. Can you just talk about the two different options that fleets are going to have, and when they might use one or over the other?
There's two different categories in PC-12 like there were in PC-11. PC-11 saw the first split category in history, where we had CK4 and FA4 oils, and those are separated by a viscometric measurement known as high temperature, high shear, or HTHS. The FA4 oils were primarily introduced for fuel economy reasons, and that continues on with the new categories, which are CL4 and FB4. CL4 being 100% backwards compatible to CK4 in previous categories, and FB4 being a new category, although not 100% backwards compatible. The OEMs are looking at validating those oils in their engines for appropriate use. The separation of those categories is driven by fuel economy. Lower HTHS is a thinner oil, and those type of oils are inherently easier on the engine, promoting less drags, losses, and less rotational pumping losses, which increases the efficiency of the engine, which thereby increases the fuel economy of the overall units. But they're not 100% interchangeable. You can't. Engine architecture and engine hardware are very heavily invested in the design of those, and the engine oils are specifically used in certain engines. So that's why it's key to check with the OEM and the hardware designers to ensure you're using the right category of oil in the engine for optimal efficiency.
So whether you use CL4 or FB4, do you imagine that after a couple of years of use, and I know it's hard to look towards the future, but because these are better on wear and efficiency and all that, fleets are going to notice that their preventative maintenance intervals and maybe even their oil drain intervals can be pushed out a little bit?
It's interesting. Durability is key. And when we talk about a transition to a new category, there's very little that people will notice on day one, apart from maybe a change in the label, right? You might have a little difference there, but operationally, there won't be much difference. But the overall life asset, the length of time of operation, things like oil drain intervals, if they fit into the scheduled maintenance, even if they are drained on oil, let's say a maintenance schedule as opposed to an ODI, an end of life for the oil, you'll see a cleaner oil. You'll see a higher level of performance. And over time, that will increase the overall value within the engine and the life asset, as it were. So oxidation resistance and durability, as we see those vastly improved with PC-12 in the Duron line, over the life of an asset, we should see improvements, significant improvements mid to long term in the individual units.
So everything's coming out, by Q1 2027, and I guess we'll kind of see how all of this works. And I'm guessing you're excited to see if all of your hard work over the past, 4 years, really pays off. But as you're working to do that, what should fleets be aware of, and what are some final things that they need to do to prepare for that moment?
Yeah, I would say it's exceptionally satisfying working with colleagues, compatriots, even competitors in some instances to develop a category. To see that come to fruition is very satisfying. So we are very excited for January 1st, 2027 to see PC-12 come to life. I think it's key that those that are operating units in whatever capacity, owner, operator, fleet manager, owner, is to consult your lubricants technical advisor as soon as possible to make sure that your transition plan coming into the new category is appropriate and as effective as it can be. The lubricants technical advisor have been through this before. We've been through it, whether it's, depending on the length and the experience, could have been as long back as PC-9 and through PC-10 and 11 and 12. We've done this before. We know what we're doing. We have the right contacts and the right people and the understanding and processes to ensure that the transition is smooth, efficient, and as seamless as possible.
So Darryl, if people want to learn more about Petro-Canada's solution for PC-12, where should they go?
Yeah, www.duronpc12.com has all the latest information, and we'll have some contact information so that you can get in touch with the right person for your needs.
All right, well, thank you so much, Darryl. Learned a lot today.
Thank
Appreciate
you very
it.
much.